I'm Jocelyn. It is our pleasure to have you here to learn all about how the law of attraction affects everything.
No one knows what it's like to be you because they're not you, and you might as well not even ask them because they're going to give you their experience instead of your own. When I was getting frustrated and I was getting impatient and losing my cool, I noticed that my focus got worse. But when I started getting really grounded and I started really trusting and started surrendering and playing with it a little bit more, I wanted to get from the beginning of my rehearsal of reconstructing my spine all the way to the end without taking a turn off on the wrong exit. And so all the times that I had been practicing were the times that I was actually changing. So all of those moments led up to that one moment where I started and I went to the end, and when I finished, I was able to hold my focus. I didn't wander anywhere in my mind, and there was a physical sensation in my body that felt right. It felt good. I felt connected. It felt like I knew what I was doing was working. And then the moment I had that connection, from that point on, when I started noticing the changes taking place in my body outside of me, I started paying attention to what I was doing inside of me, but now I did it with more passion. I had momentum. I was connected. Now I knew. Like, now it's just like all the work you do in training for anything is in the beginning it's really hard, but then when it starts getting easier and starts getting fun, you start enjoying it, and that's what happened. I started looking forward to my meditations. I couldn't wait to get back in there and refine it a little bit more. It was just my world. I mean, I had nowhere to go. I wasn't going to go. I couldn't train. I couldn't go. I was laying face down, and just working with myself. And so it was a great time. It was a difficult time, but I learned a lot about myself and a lot about the healing process along the way. I'm not a traditional guy that takes things from any religious sect, any tradition, any culture. And the moment you start talking religion or culture or tradition, you divide an audience, but science creates community. So you combine a little quantum physics with a little neuroscience, a little neuroendocrinology, a little psychoneuroimmunology, a little epigenetics. All of those sciences point the finger at possibility, but not in an intimidating way, in a simple way. So in our meditations, we start off by telling everybody, look, you already know how to do this. You just forgot because you're too busy and too distracted. And most people, to finish the thought from our last conversation, wait for crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis or loss to finally change. It's got to get so bad that they no longer feel like themselves any longer, that they can see what they look like for the first time. So everybody that's listening on this call has done something great in their life. And what did they do? They got a wild idea. They got a new idea. They asked themselves a question like, what would it be like to be healthy? What would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to be in a new relationship? What would it be like to be happy? The moment they ask that question, they turn on the creative center in their brain. They turn on their frontal lobe. Now, frontal lobe's got to get busy creating. So it's got to use the raw materials in the brain. It's got to use the circuits of things you've learned intellectually or philosophically and the things you've experienced in your life. So the frontal lobe's got to answer the question. So it looks out over the landscape of the brain and it starts activating different circuits. And when it seamlessly pieces it together, you get a vision in your mind that's called an intention. Now, a passionate person who has that vision, the thought in their mind becomes the experience. They start to feel the emotion as if they're already there ahead of the event. And when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you're changing your energy, you're changing your neurocircuitry, you're changing your chemistry, you're changing your genetic expression. You're no longer living in your past. In that moment, you're living in your future. So being defined by a vision of the future is what our work is about instead of the memories of the past. So what should they do then? Write down the choices you got to make and make sure you commit them to memory. Review the things you got to do. Review the behaviors. Think about the experiences, your goals in that future and how they feel. And keep reviewing them. Keep your conscious mind on them. Now, the most important thing is to review the thoughts that you don't want to think. I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change this, won't work for me, it's my mother's fault, it's my father's fault, it's my ex's fault, I don't feel like it, whatever it is. Write those thoughts down and become so conscious of those unconscious thoughts that you would never go unconscious or believe them again. Write down the choices you got to stop making. Think about the things you no longer want to do, the habits you got to break, the experiences you got to stay away from that are connected to certain people in certain places, and the emotions that are going to bring you to a lower denominator. And you got to become so conscious of that 95% of where most people live, that you won't go unconscious and return back to the old self. That's the work right there. So that process is what we all innately are wired to do anyway. It's just that you got to make the time to do it, and that's the key right there. Most people don't want to make the time. The fact that you can think about what you're thinking about makes you wonder who's doing the observing of those thoughts, right? The fact that you can be aware of what you're thinking means you're not the thought. You're the executor or the controller of that thought. You're the consciousness that's executing that thought. So most people think, well, just because I have a thought, it's true. That's not true. Just because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Emotions and feelings are a record of the past. So if you're feeling the familiar emotions every single day of unhappiness or unworthiness or insecurity, then you're starting your day from the past. And if those emotions are driving your thoughts, and you can't think greater than how you feel, then you're thinking in the past. And for the most part, your day is going to stay the same. So the first step, without a doubt, then, is getting people the right information. The more knowledge you have and understanding how you work and how your brain and body works in a simple way, the better you have the operating manual to take care of yourself. So then, we sit people in our workshops sometimes, and they're going to sit there for a period of time. And they're going to sit there, and I'm not going to let them get up. And you know what? They're going to have to get beyond their fear. They're going to have to get beyond their hatred. They're going to get beyond their prejudice, beyond their anger. They got to get beyond it. And yeah, well, you could say, yeah, it's that person that caused it. Okay, well, let's take that person and put them in a straitjacket, duct tape them, and shoot them up to the moon. So now what? Now what are you going to do? You still, on some level, have to make some type of substantial change. So we teach people that knowledge is the forerunner to experience. The right information and understanding it, understanding how you work and all of that, is going to prepare you for a better experience in your life. That's the name of the game. So then, once the person has that knowledge and information, then let's set up the conditions for them to apply it. So, most people, when they reach that crisis point, when they're sick or they're out of balance or whatever, that's the point when they decide to change. My message is, why wait? Take 45 minutes every day and just write down the things you want in your life and start feeling the emotions of how it would happen. And then see if you can stay in that state your entire day. And if you can, you should start seeing synchronicities and coincidences and opportunities and doors opening for you because you're not the same person any longer. And that's cool because you don't have to be a physicist or a neuroscientist or an academic or a saint or a priest or a rabbi or any of that. None. You just have to be a common person. Just like you learn any skill, once you learn how to do it, it gets easier and easier. And that's what I want for people, to make it easy. Let's face it, when you're living life, a lot of your attention is on your outer environment. And what is your outer environment made up of? Bodies, people, things, objects, places, and time. A lot of our attention is on our body, how we're feeling. Are we hungry? Are we tired? We're angry? We're frustrated? We have pain? And a lot of our attention is on time. Like how much time do we have? Where do we have to go? What do we have to do? And it's the act of keeping your attention on your body, your environment, and time that all of a sudden keeps you separate from your inner world of thoughts and feelings. So we love this idea of teaching people how to sit down and disconnect from their outer environment. If you're listening to soft music and you have your blindfolds on and your eyes closed, you're less likely to be influenced by your outer world.
Thank you for stopping by. To watch this video,